Alright guys, we're on our red-eye flight for another episode, another round of Formula D. Originally we weren't going to go to Atlanta because Joao had some plans, but we are going to Atlanta. I'll explain that in a minute, but this starts our 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. overnight flight to Atlanta. So let's get going. So it's time for our red-eye. It's 1 in the morning and we arrive in Atlanta I think at 8 a.m. So, and then a full day's worth of work. So that should be fun. Yeah, I don't know what this weekend's gonna bring, but when we get there, I'll fill you in on what's going on. Joao was not competing the entire weekend, but I'll fill you in on that one. So let me explain the reasoning behind what's going on this weekend. Originally, when we talked about doing this season, Joao decided he wasn't going to go to Atlanta because he has an important drift event in Brazil that's the same weekend, and it's a conflict. And his attendance in Brazil for his sponsors and his program is more important than his attendance at Formula Drift. However, with this new seating bracket and the way that all works out, he decided he wanted to show up for Thursday, which is the seating competition, to get some more points and see if that'll help him for the next round of Orlando. If he does well in the seating bracket here, then potentially could fare better for him in Orlando. So he decided to attend the Atlanta round of Formula D, and then Friday he's going to fly back to Brazil so he can fulfill his obligations in Brazil Saturday at that competition. So the other thing is that obviously the car had problems in Long Beach, so we want to make sure it's tested and ready to go. So we're using this opportunity also to make sure that the car's fixed. I believe what they did, we're just arriving now, but he's been in Atlanta for a couple days working with the guys at Fuel Tech helping out. And I believe what happened is they swapped out there was 2 blow-off valves on the hot side, and the supercharger companies were telling him you should have a specific blow-off valve on the cold side. So he swapped out the 2, put 1 on the cold side, and then changed the way the rev limiter is. So between those 2 things, hopefully that solves the problem of the belt braking. But either way, Jake and I have to brush up on our belt swapping skills, because there's a potential that we'll be swapping a belt. But that's the idea. He's basically just going to compete on Thursday, which is the seating bracket, and then Friday is only pro spec, and then Saturday is the competition, and he'll be gone by then. So we'll hang out. It's kind of a relaxed weekend for us, but then we're going to help clean up the trailer, the tent. There's a lot of work to put all the toolboxes in, take down the displays for Sim Magic and the tent and all that stuff. So basically we're here to do all that stuff and make sure the car's solid, and then any work that needs to be done on the car before the next round, we're going to get it done before the car goes in the trailer off to Orlando. All right guys, we made it. Look at this awesome tent setup. The whole thing is just like ready. The car's run to there, good to go. This is super awesome to have these kind of conditions to work in. But let's talk about what needs to be done. So the last thing we did in Long Beach was when the belt broke, and then it actually took out part of the throttle body. And so the throttle body is a little bit compromised. The shaft was bent going through there. So even though it still works, we're going to swap it out and have this as a spare. So we've got a spare throttle body, but this port needs to be plugged, and then we need to verify that everything else is going to fit on it. Also, this pipe is going to get swapped out for a different pipe. And this is a new belt, yeah?
Yeah, we are running a smaller pulley with new belts, just because we were really oversized the pulley to be safer, and we figured out that the problem wasn't the pulley. So
now you got more boost.
New electronic.
Oh, it's already on there.
Valve. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So we already tested it yesterday, and it's really nice. Once you release the throttle like really fast, it's take the air out, so we won't have like the counter. I don't know how to say in English.
Cool.
And also it will help us in the rev limiter, because we can set up that so when we are close to the rev limiter, we can take out like 20% of the boost. So we will not go so hard to rev limiter anymore. Because only 2 places we broke belts were our rev limiter or when we left the throttle too fast.
So fix 2 problems and hopefully that solves everything.
Yeah.
It should be good. Cool, so Jake's gonna swap out the throttle body. Manny's messing with the tune, yeah? It's a secret, I can't tell him. Can't tell everyone what's going on. This is the Fuel Tech special works going on here. We're gonna go grab a U-Haul truck because in Atlanta, The hot pits are way over there, and so we've got these 2 toolboxes. And so João likes to get a U-Haul truck and use that as our pit vehicle, because obviously we can't carry a pit vehicle inside this trailer because it's full of other stuff. So we're gonna go grab a U-Haul, get everything loaded in there, and then tonight we're gonna go across the street to Lanier and do some testing in this car, make sure everything's good. And then tomorrow is action time. So this is where my truck broke down. Shoot, it's probably 10 years ago when I came to Atlanta and my semi truck blew up, and we had to tow it to the top of this hill. That was bad. That was really embarrassing. The trailer looked like it was falling apart. The truck engine locked up. That's not something I like to think about or remember. That was a really low time in my drifting, my Formula D history. But we got a U-Haul. So we're gonna get all of our pit stuff loaded up in this U-Haul box truck, and then we're gonna get ready to head over to Lanier to do some testing. All right, so we're mixing up some fancy JB weld. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a professional welder. JB Quick, not regular JB. We got to plug some holes in this throttle body. That's like an idle air control hole, which we're not using, so we got to plug all the ports so it doesn't leak from there to there, so it doesn't leak from there to external, and then so it doesn't leak from there to external over here. So we were gonna like get a tap and die and do all that stuff, but we decided the old throttle body had JB weld. It handled it just fine, so we're just gonna JB this one too. Takes some special skills to be able to run JB. It's crazy in this hot weather here. This JB goes from like really soupy to really like firm really quick.
Laying some dimes, huh?
Stacking dimes. Alright. So you gotta fill this hole up. The nice thing about JB is, like, if you make a bit of a mess while it's still setting up, you can get a razor blade in there and make some clean cuts on it. Okay, that hole's good. Just plugging holes. Woo. What you don't want to do is JB weld your throttle wide open or stuck closed. All right, we're swapping the ratio out. We had this 29-23 in here. We're going to a 25-19. This should give us the ideal wheel speed for this track. Quick change is super nice to be able to change the gear ratio on the fly, and you really don't lose that much fluid. It's super handy, as long as you can reach it. If you guys watch my other videos on my pro car, we can't reach it. It's a slow change. Jake has to drop the differential down to.
It's slow, but it's still faster than changing the whole diff.
That's true. So my chaser's going to have a quick change, and the S13 has one, but neither of them are set up and working to be a quick change right now. But either way, it's super nice because regardless of what transmission you have, you can dial in the ideal gear ratio. Super cool. And the gear sets aren't that expensive, so you have like almost unlimited options for a reasonable price. The diff's expensive, but it's practically unbreakable. The thing about this Corvette is the diff is actually mounted upside down because the way the torque tube and all the whole rear setup of a Corvette. So I'm sitting here looking at the gears and like, okay, well this one goes on top, this one goes on the bottom, but then you have to like flip everything upside down. So it took us a minute to figure out, and then Joan's like, no, my diff's upside down. I was like, oh, that makes sense. So we got that, and then you lose about like half a quart of fluid, so then you just fill it back up and then good to go. So hopefully this is the only gear change we have to do this weekend. So we just came across the road to Lanier Speedway. I've seen a bunch of videos of this place, but I've never been here. And so tonight we're gonna do some testing. There's a bunch of other pro spec and pro guys over here shaking down their cars. So it should be a fun night just hanging out and watching people break or crash their cars the day before an event. Now we'll see. This will let us test and see if the blow-off valve thing's working, if the rev limiter is working properly, that we don't throw belts. Hopefully we don't even have to open the toolbox. Just change tires, put fuel, and that'll give us the confidence to know that we're ready to go tomorrow. so we're at the Lanier Speedway, and apparently someone, I'm not gonna name names, someone was blasting up and down the street. So Road Atlanta's right there across the street, and then we're here on this side of the street. That's a county road, and someone was blasting up and down the road, and it was one of our guys. So Andy Luck got called, got yelled at, cops got called, general manager got called. It was a big deal, and so Andy came over and said, everybody that's over here at Lanier, that's a pro or prospect driver, needs to leave and go back to the track, because they wanted to lock everybody out and basically say, screw you guys for, you know, driving on the county road. Anyways, so now we're being escorted back onto the premises by Andy Luck. So there's always the one guy that ruins it for everybody else, right? So, but I think everything worked out, right? The
Everything did good.
electronic,
Oh yes.
what's it called? Blow-off valve.
Yep.
It's working. Basically, it releases boost at rev limiter, right? Is that the idea? Or
So, 2 ways, yeah. One of the ways is if it reaches a certain RPM, it's going to open up, release some of that pressure. And also, if you let off throttle quick enough, it'll also open up and kind of bleed some of that pressure off to help any.
those seem to be the two conditions that would cause the belt to snap, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So hopefully, I mean, I'm still crossing my fingers because we've done a bunch of testing before and still had failures at the worst time. But so far, it seems like it's working. The logs show that it's working and doing what it's supposed to, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. It's looking beautiful now.
So fingers crossed. But that's awesome. It's awesome that he was showing me the software where you can go in and control the electronic boost controller, or not boost controller, electronic blow-off valve. That still blows my mind. There's an electronic wastegate, but this is an electronic blow-off valve.
Yep. Oh,
it's cool. But yeah, we're heading back to the track tonight, and then tomorrow is the seating battles. So we'll see how that goes. Apparently, it was a big enough deal that they hired the county sheriff to come block the road to let a couple of drift cars across. I don't know if this is good or bad. Is this like everyone's mad at us, or is it like, hey, cool, there's drift cars on the street? So last round there were some issues with the starter. We ended up swapping out the starter like 2 or 3 times. Kept messing with it. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't work. And it ended up that the PDM output wasn't strong enough to run the starter, so it was like tweaking out. So sometimes it would have sufficient amperage and sometimes it wouldn't. So we just stole the out from the switch. It's on that switch panel. And then we ran it to a relay up under there. And so we have a solid state relay running from a signal from the starter switch that goes through the ECU. So it goes switch panel to ECU to output to a, not solid state, to a mechanical relay and then to the starter. Good old mechanical relays coming in clutch, and now it works just fine. So I think we probably replaced 2 or 3 starters that didn't need to be replaced because of I won't say it's a PDM issue, but it's just a setup issue with the PDM. It probably needs a dual output, just probably maxing out the amperage of what the capability is on the single output. But I think that's it for tonight. We're gonna go get some sleep, get back at it tomorrow. Tomorrow is the seating bracket. Tomorrow's game day for us, and then see where we end up stacked up in the bracket. Good morning, guys. We're back at it again. I had to wake up at 6 in the morning, drove down to Atlanta to get to swap out the rental car. And there was tornado warnings and a huge thunderstorm and just like crazy stuff going on. Got stuck in traffic. Jake was here, was able to get our pit spot set up. If you know Road Atlanta at all, you got to drive up here and then claim your pit spot. And obviously, the further away from the start line you are, the less advantageous it is for being able to see and get back and forth and keep track of your car and your driver and all that. So we wanted to get a good pit spot, which I think Jake did, but he said a bunch of people came early before they were supposed to and set up. We know who you are. You're all guilty. So, man, it gets full up here. So today is Pro Spec and Pro. So basically the whole grid is being shared by Pro and Pro Spec. So
2 series.
Yeah, 2 series. So there's a lot of people here. After Pro Spec is done tomorrow, then there'll be more space. But like we talked about, our only focus is getting the seating bracket in competition done. So after the seating bracket today, we're gonna pack the car up, and then that's it for the weekend. So our main focus today is to make sure that the car's ready and good to go, and then we're going up against Federico Sharifo. This town's only big enough for one sheriff. That's the joke. So hopefully João can win that battle, and then that'll be good for his standings going into the next round. I wish he could stay and you know, do well at this event, but it just doesn't work out for his schedule. We're still out here for practice. There's storm warnings, there was lightning. They canceled for 30 minutes for lightning warning. And Joao's on the line. Still have yet to do a lap yet, but it's just soaking wet. It's just raining constantly. It's supposed to rain until 4:30, so probably all of practice is gonna be in the rain today. We changed some setup stuff to get grip out of the car in the wet, right? But yeah, this is typical Formula D weather. At some point almost every weekend you get rain, right? Rained in Long Beach. It always rains in Florida. We get rain in Atlanta. That's what we've got to look forward to. So hopefully everything works out with the car. I think it's good. One thing is I don't know how the supercharger is going to react like this. Maybe it won't act up if there's still a problem, and maybe it will act up when it's dry. So I don't know if we're going to get any valid data here, but we got to do what we're going to do. And then tonight is the seating, the seating bracket, qualifying, whatever you want to call it. So the first session of practice was really wet. A lot of cars were sliding off and there wasn't a whole lot of time, so I think we got 3 runs in that session. This of course is the second session. Things dried out as it does. The sun came out, dried out the track, and with that we were ready to put some serious load on the car and make sure that we were not going to have any belt problems for the weekend. Alright guys, it's game time. Did a bunch of practice today. He's feeling good, the car's good, no problems with the belts, none of the issues that we had before, but now we're up against Federico Sharifo, so it should be a good battle.
Let's see him. Federico Sharifo will be, Joao Barion will be leading as Federico and the Ferrari 509 GTB is coming down the hill. There we go. As far as Joao, you can see Federico. Look at Joao. That car looks really sucked to the ground right now. looking like a vacuum as Betty comes to that second outside zone. He dabbles with it. Betty takes that really short line, going inside clip. Oh, and he oh man. Okay, so unfortunately, Fetty flopped on the. Oh man, that was not ideal for Federico. Yeah. Yeah, there are a couple Canadian teams.
Yeah, a couple left. I mean,
the Habs.
I don't like Boston. No, Habs didn't even.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. We're moving on. Here we go. Are there any Italian hockey teams? Well, he's about to go whole five here. Here we go as Federico Sciarrifo goes and drops down, and now he really needs to make up for that going off course, doing some landscaping here, exiting the keyhole. But Joao Barion, he is twisting the screws on the all-Italian machine. You got the Brazilian behind the wheel of the American weapon. And Joao Barion brings the fire literally as he goes across that last inside clip. Joao Barion.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. This time now we're up against Vaughn Jr. That'll be a good battle. Good battle. I think it's totally possible to take it, but it's up in the air. Roll the dice. Let's go.
So Vaughn Gittin Jr., two-time champ, going against Joao Barion. Again, Cara's looking really dialed. Let's see what Joao can do in front of the two-time Formula Drift champion, 2010 and 2020. All right, the Nitto tires go round into that first clip. Transitioning now out of the smoke. Goes Vaughn Gittin Jr., Joao Barion. These guys both bobbing and weaving. Talk about that boxing match. Look at Vaughn. You can just hear him whack, whack, whack. Just whacking away at that thing like a lumberjack. Into this last inside clip. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look at the flame shooting out of Joao's car. I mean, did you hear him just clutch kick that thing? I mean, that was crazy. There we go. So let's bring him back around. Looks like Vaughn pulled beyond the start line.
So after this first run, Vaughn's car sounded really weird. If you were watching, it's hard to tell on the live stream, but everyone knew it basically sounded like his engine was stuck at full throttle. And so they called 5 minutes. He drove literally all the way to the end of the pits, which is where their pits were, like as far as you could possibly go. And Joao's like, "Hey, go follow him and make sure they don't do anything shady, you know." So I rode all the way down there. Kevin was already there. The FD crew was already there, you know, watching with the clock. You see Kevin there with the clock. So obviously I wasn't trying to get in their way, but I wanted to see what was up and get information back to the team because we were, you know, sitting on pins and needles. What's happening? Obviously, Joao had a really good lead, and it was looking like things were favorable for us, especially with them having problems. Fast forward, I ended up talking to Vaughn later about what happened, and he said his nitrous was stuck on. So really, basically, he did a whole lap like full throttle. So he was just, you know, like using the clutch to control his speed and control his angle and everything. Wild, what a pro Vaughn is. But these guys obviously were able to get it back on track. Let's watch what happens in the second battle.
So again, by how Joao Barion was driving, did not anticipate that driving prowess from Joao, but now he's going to chase down, like I said, this two-time champ. So don't know exactly what Vaughn called the cop timeout for. Joao overkicks it, gets into the gravel, throws it up, gravel machine gun, big angle there from Vaughn Gittin Jr. Oh, and he gets into the dirt now, re-enters the conversation, now exiting out of the horseshoe. And Joao Barion, he takes out I mean, this is Sloppy Joe. These guys are absolutely terrorizing this course. Oh. Joao, he overshoots it, that exit. Whew. Man, I'm exhausted. I mean, these guys absolutely motley crewed this place. Like they're staying, you know. at a hotel and just threw the TV out the window, man. These guys thrashed the place.
We'll be looking for Kentucky Bluegrass a little bit later on to replant half this field, but yeah, it's definitely got a little sloppy there. Vaughn looked like he put the car in kill mode. He was crazy fast, as you can see by dropping possibly 2 wheels out there. Now, that is not a DQ, that is not a 0 or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, incomplete. Now it's a deficit.
Yeah, it's a deficit. So they've the judges have significantly reduced the chances of incompleting.
I don't know. Somehow they we got it against Von Gittin Jr. I don't know how. I don't know what happened. I watched it twice.
I was going up against Vaughn. I gotta redo my story.
Woo!
We got Barion. Let's go, bro.
Let's go.
So here we go. Jeff Jones will lead Joao Barion. And now transitioning into this first inside clip. Jeff Jones. And look at Joao. Like you said, he cuts through that thing like a knife. I mean, the smoke. Oh, buddy. Joao. You saw him initiate it. Grips up right there in the horseshoe. And two very, 16. Oh, that's it. That's going to be it for Joao, but we still have that second half. But I'll tell you what, I bet he calls the comp timeout. I don't think Joao, he didn't utilize his. When he went against Vaughn, Vaughn did call his comp timeout.
Yeah, you could almost see it coming when they're coming up the hill. You can see Joao just bathed in smoke, and you can, whether there's a mechanical or not, you can tell how lost he got there. So Jeff gets on the power a little bit later, but you can see Joao already fighting through the smoke there, and then right here, you're not seeing much. And then transition super early. Jeff really nice and wide through that outside zone. Does a good job through the inside clip, and then Joao transitions super early there, and I believe shuts it down. Well, Jeff able to get through the rest of the
All right, so as we lay out and listen to that, watch the car grip up here. And then as they exit the horseshoe, it just, you see it straighten out and as they exit the horseshoe. So we are getting word that Joao will call a competition timeout. So a little bit of delay here, but we've had a good flow.
All right, so that's it for tonight. What a crazy time. So you guys watched all the battles. Unfortunately, my phone died, and we didn't really have a cameraman to record what we were doing. But Joao, in the battle with Von Gittin Jr., dropped tire at the very end, and then when he came back on track, something bent. So we had time between those two battles. So he grabbed a wrench and he adjusted the part that was bent to change the toe in the rear, which the arm wasn't bent, right? So you think the arm's not bent, but it changed. Something else is bent somewhere. So we just used that control arm to change the alignment. Not really finding the real issue because we didn't really have a lot of time. We didn't have to call 5 because it was between battles, but it was a top 4 battle, so it moves really quick. We could have pushed it a little bit further, but Joao just wanted to get back on track. So he just twisted it, gave it one of these, and then went back on track. So then in his battle against Jeff Jones in the first lap, as he was transitioning, he said the steering wheel was, when he started, was to the left. When he finished, it was to the right. So he knew something was flopping around, moving in the back. And he decided he wanted to call 5 and then change whatever part was bad there. So he made a decision of what was bad on the rear. We got everything together. As soon as we got hands on the car, the clock started. We had everything kind of lined up, all the parts ready, all the tools. And when we were going to take it apart, it's a Heim joint that was reverse threaded, and so we grabbed the right part. We decided to thread the new Heim joint in. We were working pretty quick. Everything was lined up and going well. The Heim joint that was reverse threaded was the one on the car. The spare one we had was in the wrong spot in the spare parts, so it was regular thread. So we had to then take apart the whole piece to get the Heim joint out, which was already bolted into the replacement part, to put it in there, and that basically cost us the time. There was no way we were going to make it happen. So I think it would have been close. Otherwise, if we had the right Heim joint that was reverse threaded and we could have just threaded it in, it would have been close. Still might not have made it, but would have been close. This way we had no chance. So hindsight, what I think, I would have driven the car. I would have just said, let's go back on track and make it happen. Joao said, oh, we should have thought about trying to tighten it. That was an option too. We didn't really discuss it. Joao just made a decision, said do this, and we did it. So, everybody's got a different opinion. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Kind of a bummer because I I think his run wasn't great against Jeff Jones. I don't think if he would have driven a second one with the car that was subpar at that point, I think maybe it wouldn't have gone well. But either way, congrats to Jeff. Jeff did great. Joao did great driving. And Ryan Literal, there was a lot of really cool battles today. So, and thank you guys for watching. Joao's going to take off to Brazil. So, even though he's in the bracket for top 32 tomorrow, he can't compete. That's a big bummer. All right, guys, welcome back. Today is another day of Formula Drift. So, the car is here. He's not going to drive it. We've got 2 days to do a bunch of work. So, we're taking advantage of this opportunity to get a bunch of much needed maintenance done. Along the list of things to do, we have the rear suspension that got damaged last night in battles. We have, we're gonna pull the transmission, inspect the clutch, and put a throwout bearing in it. And then, let's see, we got a list of other stuff to do. But the main thing obviously is getting the subframe, the torque tube, the transmission, and the clutch, all that stuff out. So we're gonna start on that right now. Let's move to a time lapse. So a couple of cool things about this setup is everything's really easy to work on. You got these bolts here, you got these to get the whole rear upper control arm and the coilover off. And then these brake fittings right here are like a quick connect, and they stay bled, so you don't have to re-bleed the brakes when you do it. So we got the two junctions right here and right there that cover the entire subframe. So we take these two off, one's a handbrake, one's the rear brakes, and then we can drop everything. And when we hook them back up, we do not have to bleed. It should not get any air in there because they're like a quick disconnect. Super awesome. And basically we just have to disconnect all those bolts around the torque tube, drop the rear subframe, and then everything will slide out. The Samsonas will come with it, and the differential and everything. Let me get a shot from back here. Everything should just slide straight back and then down, and then we can get to the clutch stuff. Alright, so we can get to the clutch from here, but the belt housing is still in place. So what Alex was explaining to us before was that one of the headers has to be able to move, which Jake already loosened it, so it's flopping around. So hopefully we can just wiggle the belt housing out and then get to that clutch. We gotta go find the spare clutch parts in the trailer. But it wasn't too bad. I think we're about an hour into the job so far, a little over an hour, and we already got the torque tube out. So this should go pretty quick. Hopefully it doesn't fight us on the way back in. Alright guys, we're back at it again today, and last night we started putting the torque tube in, and then we were fighting with the clutch being able to line up and get onto the discs and to the pilot bearing. So we came in today, and Jake is under here messing with the clutch. We're going to loosen the 3 bolts holding the clutch to hopefully let the discs kind of free up a little bit, and then hopefully the shaft will slide right through there. So once we get those 6 clutch bolts loosened up, we can start wiggling the transmission a little bit, and then shoot, hopefully it'll just shoot right in there, and then we can finish up the job. We've got aside from that, it should go together pretty easily. We got the quick disconnect brake lines in the back. There's only 2 plugs that go to the transmission, so like it's really a pretty simple car. I'm really impressed with the fact that we had to take out the whole torque tube and transmission and differential and subframe and everything. It was still relatively easy.